What is up, YouTube? In today's video, I'll be showing you guys how to replace your spark plugs on a 2015 Dodge Charger SXT. Mine is Ripp Supercharged, but this same method will apply to naturally aspirated motors. And if you have the Ripp Supercharger kit, I'll have some extra pointers to help you out. And this method will also apply to pretty much any V6 Charger with the 3.6 liter Pentastar engine. Some things you might be noticing if you need to replace your spark plugs is random multiple misfires, rough idling, your RPM could be moving around a little bit, or you can just replace them when your car manufacturer recommends it. Today I'll be replacing mine with these NGK Iridium spark plugs. They come pre-gapped, so if you get these exact ones, you don't have to worry about gapping them or anything. And I always use NGK Iridiums anytime I replace spark plugs on any vehicle. So let's get right into removing stuff to access those spark plugs. Things first, we're just gonna go ahead and pop off our engine cover. Next, if you have the stock intake, you're just gonna have a tensioner strap like this up here at the throttle body. You're just gonna loosen that and then just slide it off your throttle body. And then down here where you have your intake box, you'll have another tensioner strap you'll just loosen, and then you'll be able to basically take out this tube section. It'll just pop off. And that's how you do it if you have the stock intake. If you have the Ripp Supercharger intake, pretty much you're just gonna need to loosen this tensioner strap right here and just pop it off and move it to the side. And before you remove your intake, unplug your air temp sensor, which will be located right here. Just has a little tab right here you push down on, and then you just pull off. And to loosen these tensioner straps, you can use a 8mm socket or a flathead screwdriver. Then next, we're gonna go ahead and unplug our throttle body right here. You just pop off this clip as well. And then right behind the throttle body, you'll have your map sensor, and then it just has a plastic tab. Unplug that, then lift up on that clip. You move these wires to the side, and then also just move the intake over a little bit. Moving further behind the throttle body on the intake manifold, we're gonna pop off this hose right here, and then we're gonna pop off this hose. I'm gonna have to loosen this tensioner strap. I'm just gonna use a flathead screwdriver to do so and pop it off. And then back here, you're gonna have this hose, and I don't remember if these have these tensioner straps, just stock, but if you do, I'm just gonna use a flathead to loosen it. And I'm just gonna loosen this back one and then slide it off from this point right here. All right, we got all three of those hoses removed. And this one was a little tricky, and I just didn't want to just pull it and rip it. So I just used my flathead and kind of helped back it off as I was pulling, and that helped me get it off pretty easy. Then down here, you'll have this bracket right here, right? Typically, mine's broken, as you can see. There'll be a plastic clip right here, and you'll just want to take a tool like this bad boy right here and just pop it out from that hole. And next, we're going to loosen these two 10mm bolts so we can get this bracket off of the intake manifold. And then down here, right below, as you can see right there, you have a 13mm bolt we're also going to loosen. Got that bracket just laying down and detached. Got that 13mm bolt out and both 10mm. I just went ahead and used a 13mm wrench to loosen it, and then I just used this ratchet on this 13mm ratchet wrench to get it out the rest of the way. Just use that to break it. But just make sure when you're loosening that bolt that you're turning it this way. So you'd be turning this way to loosen it. Now we're gonna swing around to the other side of the intake manifold, and then we'll just disconnect this hose right here. And you're gonna have two 10mm bolts. You see this other one located right there. I'm just gonna use our 10mm socket to loosen that. I ended up just switching to this 10mm ratchet wrench to get it off, so I had a little bit more clearance. Next, we're gonna use a 8mm socket with an extension to remove the 7 remaining bolts holding the intake manifold down. So they're located 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. We got our 7 bolts loosened, and I'll like to take out these 4, and I just set them right there. And then the other 3 are kind of hard to grab out, so I usually just leave them in. But now we should be able to lift up our intake manifold, and you'll just have to slide it out of these bracket holes over here. and bam, it's that easy to take it off. And you don't want to leave your lower intake manifold portholes exposed like this, so just take a shop rag and cover them, because you just don't want any debris falling in there. And I'll probably grab another one to cover that little space. And you can take this foam piece off as well. I like to go ahead and cover the upper intake manifold portholes as well, so nothing's falling inside of that either. If you want to be on the extra cautious side, you can go ahead and take compressed air, blow out over your coils where your spark plugs are sitting underneath on both sides, or use a shop vac. That's probably what I'm going to do, just to vacuum it up. That way when you take the coils and spark plugs out, you don't have anything falling in those holes either. Now we're going to go ahead and disconnect our coil packs. There's 6, 1 for each cylinder, and all you got to do is press down on these plastic tabs and slide off, and we're going to do that 6 times. We got each coil pack unplugged on both sides. Now on each coil, you're gonna have a 10mm bolt. So we're gonna go ahead and loosen each bolt on both sides. Now with all 6 coil pack bolts removed, we can pop out our coil packs. All you gotta do is just give a little wiggle and gently lift up. Don't be too rough with them. You don't want them breaking. It should just pop out just like that. Now we're gonna go ahead and remove the spark plugs, and they're located down in these holes, 6, 3 on both sides. And you're gonna need a ratchet with an extension, and I'm using a 5/8 spark plug socket, and they're deeper sockets, and also they have these rubber fittings to help the socket stick onto it so you can pull it out, and you don't just loosen it and it gets stuck down there. But just be prepared, just in case. Have a magnetic snake. That way, if you loosen it and it doesn't come up with the socket, you can just fish it out with one of these. So I'm gonna go ahead and loosen these and remove all 6. I got all the old spark plugs out, and I have all the new ones gapped. Like I said previously, if your car's just stock, if you get the Iridium NGK spark plugs for your car, they come pre-gapped, so you won't need to gap them. But if you have the Ripp Supercharger kit, like I do, you're going to want to have a smaller gap. And I just referenced the manual that came with the kit. The gap is 0.032. And then if you're curious on how to gap, so this is how you would gap your spark plugs. You can use a tool like this. There's various tools you can get. This is just the one I have. It was literally only $1. And then you take your spark plug, and then just be kind of easy when you do it, because you don't want to be scratching off these tips and stuff. You just put it on here and then slide it, and then as you can see, it's gapped to 0.032 of an inch. And how you can adjust it, because originally these ones I think were gapped at like 4 point something, like 4.5 or 0.45, something like that. So basically how you gap these is you just push this metal end down on a hard surface. I was just using this, and then I just go through and check the gap and keep pushing it down until I get to that ideal range. If you push it down too much, you just stick this little hook in the hole, and then you can push down and it'll lift it up a little bit. Just be easy while you're doing it. Now we're gonna start screwing in the spark plugs. I already just put in one. So basically how you're gonna do that is, I like to just detach my extension and socket, and then I'll put the spark plug in, and then you want to gently just set it in there. Don't just kind of drop it in there, because you don't want to damage that tip. So just try to be as gentle as possible when placing it in there. And then I'll hand tighten it down with just the extension and socket. Then you're going to go ahead and use a torque wrench, right? And this one is inch pounds. And you're going to torque it down to 13 foot-pounds, which in inch pounds converted is 156 inch pounds. And if you never used a torque wrench, if you're using one like this, pretty much all you do is just pull this down, and then you just twist the handle up until, let's see if we can record that, until you get to the 150 mark, and then you go up 6 more notches. And then as you're tightening it down, you'll hear it click right here, and that's when it indicates you're at the right torque spec. But I would recommend torquing down your spark plugs. You don't have to, but I would just definitely recommend doing that. And if you don't have access to a torque wrench and you are hand tightening it down, just do it till it's firm. Do not over tighten it or strip it, because it will be almost virtually impossible to get out. That's precisely why I would highly recommend using a torque wrench to put the spark plugs into place. So I'm going to finish screwing the rest of these in and we'll go from there. I got this spark plug in and I just am threading it in, hand tightening it down till it's nice and firm. All right, now it's nice and firm. Go ahead and grab your torque wrench. Make sure it's at the proper spec. Oh, wrong side, which it is. Pop it in. And you hear that click. That's when you know it's torqued down to spec. If you're using one of these spark plug sockets that have these rubber fittings on the inside, that it'll hold your spark plug into place if you squish it down. So when you drop it in, see, it's not falling out. So you can easily put it in there and hand tighten it down without just dropping it into the hole, potentially damaging your tip. I got all the spark plugs screwed in and torqued down the spec. Now we're just gonna go ahead and pop back in our coil packs. Then you're gonna tighten down each of your coil packs on both sides and plug them in on both sides. And in terms of tightening them down, just do it till it's nice and firm. Now you can just use some brake cleaner and a shop rag, and I just wipe down this surface, and I also put this little sound dampener piece back on, and then you're also going to use that same rag and wipe down this surface, basically the contact surface that meets with these gaskets. Also, it's a good opportunity to check on these gaskets. These are still good. If they're looking squished or ripped, then go ahead and replace them, but these ones I replaced recently, so they're still good. And you can go ahead and seat your intake manifold back into place. Just make sure you get these studs into these holes on these brackets over here, so you don't tighten everything down and have to take it off and then re-put it in those holes. With your upper intake manifold seated, now we can go ahead and screw the 7 screws down onto it. And there is a torque sequence and a torque spec for this. So the torque spec is 8 foot-pounds and the torque sequence is going to go as follow: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 foot-pounds. And if you're using a inch-pound torque ratchet like I am, it's 96 inch-pounds. Then you can screw down these 2 10mm nuts on this side of the intake manifold, and I just clip this hose back up. Then you're gonna swing around to the other side, and we're gonna reattach this bracket. So you got that 13mm bolt, screw that down, and these 2 10mm nuts. I reattached my intake. If you got the Ripp intake, it's a little tricky to get back on. If you got the stock one, you know, you just tighten this up, clip it back down, tighten it back over here. But best method I found was just taking this part completely off, loosening this top tensioner right here, and then you can push this coupler all the way down onto this pipe. Then you have this loose, so you have more wiggle room. Put it up to here, slide it off this pipe onto the throttle body, and then you can tighten it down and tighten it back down there. I'm gonna go ahead and I just plugged back in the air temp sensor, plugged in the throttle body, clipped it in, clipped in the map sensor, and plugged that in as well. And then you're gonna reattach this top hose, this hose coming in to the side, and this back hose. Then you're just gonna put your engine cover back on, and that's it. That completes this job. Probably saved yourself a few $100 doing it yourself. If this helped you out, like and subscribe and comment any questions below.